Today we are going to talk about Shivambu, which is urine therapy, or in the West it is referred to as auto urine therapy. I've got a wonderful person here who has been kind enough to offer his thoughts about his personal experiences regarding Shivambu. Let us now talk to him and see what he has to say about this Pati and his personal experiences. So welcome to our group and thanks for sharing your thoughts. What I would like to start discussing with you is, how did you come to consider Shivambu as a practice?
Shivambu itself seems to be something odd combination to gulp with. Even the idea people are not ready to accept.
Correct.
Shivambu physical drinking is a different part.
Correct.
But even accepting this idea
At the mental level,
is a big kind of a burden.
Very true.
If an individual is convinced the social system is so bad that it pushes him not to consume this.
Correct. Social ostracization can be very severe.
True. So when I got introduced to Shivambu is through you again.
Okay.
You were treating me for some other conditions, and after a couple of years, when there was a confidence which was built within me about you, you mentioned about this particular therapy called as "Why don't you try Shivambu?
Okay.
It will give you faster relief."
Right.
So I was taken aback because initially I was there. I had come down to US.
Western practice, the acupuncturist. What is he talking about Shivambu?
Yes, what he is talking about Shivambu. So it was a shock for me that for this particular condition, Shivambu could be helpful.
Yes.
For which I was getting treated from your side.
But then you also had the confidence that this man can be helpful.
Yes, can be helpful. So Shivambu, in my mind, is a product which is offered by Lord Shiva.
That's true, very true.
So Shiva is our family god. So whatever is offered by him must be good.
So that helped you a little bit.
That was convinced. It was convinced.
Correct.
Since it is named after Lord Shiva. That was one. Secondly, during my during my childhood time, there used to be a very informative program on Doordarshan called as Surabhi.
Correct, yes.
So during that Surabhi program, which was a very trustworthy program.
Yes.
See, it was a brand which could be trusted.
Correct.
So they did, in one of the programs, they had discussed the scientific side of Shivambu.
Okay, so they had a program on Shivambu.
That was the earliest introduction to me of Shivambu.
Okay.
Number 3, I read a bit about Morarji Desai practicing Shivambu.
Yes. He was one of our prime ministers. Yes.
So theoretically, I was convinced that a person like Morarji Desai or a program like Surabhi is talking about Shivambu, that means there is some truth in that.
Correct.
So that was one. Secondly, my introduction to Shivambu was, I did not even know what is the name, actually. The name Shivambu. I used to go for trekking for my professional and as far as my hobby goes. So in trekking on high altitude,
yes,
we used to have the local guides and the porters.
Correct.
All of them were uneducated, illiterate in our sense.
Yes.
But
the academics.
Yes, academic wise. But during these trekking conditions, we used to stay on high altitude.
Yes.
We used to climb in with the help of the ropes.
Correct.
Due to high altitude, lack of water and temperatures, everyday personal hygiene was not possible.
Yes.
And with the ropes which were tied around our waist or the lower body part, we always used to get suffered with some of the other scratches or rope burns. So these guys had a actual heel for that. They used to say, first, Saab, do one thing. Morning you apply the morning urine on that.
So they used to actually practice it themselves.
Yes, practice it.
Okay.
For any
And
small.
then they told you,
Yes,
for
they
such
told
things,
us.
just
Yes,
apply
just
morning urine, you'll be
yes,
okay.
Yes, morning urine you apply, everything will be okay.
Okay,
And that used to be their medicine for everything and each thing.
correct.
If something goes wrong with your digestion, if something goes externally or internally wrong, they used to apply it. It used to be the
Okay.
easiest and
So they were regular practitioners of what they said.
Yes,
Okay.
correct. So that way I got introduced. We used to try at that particular level during those days, and it used to cure.
So it used to heal those
Yes, heal
rope
those-
burns and
yes,
everything
rope
else.
burns.
Okay.
So that was, but after a few years, that practice, when we stopped going to mountains, it also
You forgot
stopped.
about it.
Forgot about it.
Correct.
Then suddenly, when you mentioned about it, everything surfaced. So I said, let's give me a try. But trying this particular therapy is, as I've told you, it's a mental block.
Sure is.
Consuming own urine,
Yes.
it's a huge block. Right now, I can very easily do it, but at that time, 8 years before, it was a like major block to consume that.
Yes.
So I started preparing my mind took around 8 days. After that, I tried 1 or 1.5 teaspoon.
Right.
And one fine day, I said, "Come what may, I'm going to consume the entire thing, entire stuff." And I did it. After a couple of days, suddenly I found that I am suffering with dysentery.
You had the runs.
So I said, "Arey, something has gone wrong." So I called you.
Correct.
So in return, you said it's not dysentery, but it's a cleansing
Cleansing
process.
of the bowel. Correct.
It will stop. And literally after 3-4 days, after cleansing is done, I found that I am feeling much lighter
Yes.
internally.
Correct. Correct.
Then my hunger has gone up,
So your appetite
appetite influenced. And afterwards, when I started practicing it on a daily basis, this is the biggest benefit what I have achieved.
What you have noticed.
Yes, what I have noticed is my habit of eating has regularized.
Okay. So it changed your eating habits.
Yes, it changed my eating habit. And
Any
then
particular
several others.
reason?
Particular reason is number one. We'll come one by one to it. The first basic thing was it was cleansing.
Okay.
Number one. Number two is what I felt is little lighter from inside. Otherwise, during the entire day, you feel little heavy from inside. Although you exercise, one has a regular practice of physical
Just
fitness,
feel
but
heavy
they
on the
feel heavy
stomach.
on the stomach.
Yeah.
So that thing is gone. Number three is my habits got regularized.
Correct.
First thing in the morning after.
So your bowels got regulated
Yes,
to
bowels.
only in the morning.
Only in the morning.
So no daytime job.
No daytime, no evening time. Otherwise, it used to happen twice a day.
Okay.
Once during morning after
So
breakfast.
once you have your bowels move in the morning, you had your whole day free too.
Correct. And that.
Okay.
Yes, and that is continuing, right?
Correct.
So that that I experienced. Number three is there was a difference in my skin tone as well.
Okay.
So which developed, which improved a lot. Number three, and then number four, what I have will come down to this, that my eating habit improved. How? Since one has to consume his or her own Shivambu in the morning, I have to make sure in the night that it should be tasteless or the minimum taste and the minimum odor, so that the first day
It's easier.
Yes, is easier to consume.
Yes, okay.
So that way I stopped eating anything, any strong flavor foods in the
No
evening.
spices, etc.
Spices, yes. Then my dinner time changed to in between 7 to 8 p.m.
Okay.
so that I get a clear flow in the morning, next day morning. So that's why eating of like stuff like garlic, onion completely stopped.
Okay.
So that helped us.
Ah.
In my family it is said that consuming garlic and onion is not natural for people like us.
Okay. Yes. Tradition
So,
says.
tradition says that.
Now you have forced yourself
You
to
are
do
forced
it
to
by
do it by
circumstances.
circumstances.
The interesting part about this, what you're explaining is, what we have experienced is when people practice Shivambu for some time, we find that the body starts going towards sattvic vritti. Now, sattvic vritti is very difficult to explain to the Western mind, but let us just refer to it as something towards making your body purer in action, words, deeds, thoughts, etc. So, when the body starts doing that, your physiology is changing enough to tell you that look, spicy foods are not the best, this is not the best, and you slowly start traveling towards a more balanced diet, more rigorous routine, more disciplined lifestyle, etc. And it looks like it is changing you towards that end naturally.
Yes, true. So that way, if you look at my eating habits since last 5 years, it has naturally come down to a very normal food, non-spicy, and that kind of a sattvic kind of, as you have mentioned, sattvic kind of intake I naturally take. I don't tend to go for any extra spices or very strong kind of a food. Non-veg is very occasional, but that too I go for a Western kind of cooked instead of going for typical Indian non-spicy ones. Because personally I like few of
Correct.
But yes, of course, tomorrow morning's thread.
Don't call it a choice.
It's not called a choice. It's a choice. It's my choice, of course. It's my choice. Nobody has compelled me.
Correct.
Since
So
I have.
means our viewers might think, "Arey, now there is a dagger over my head."
No. So
What
it's
about
a choice.
sleep?
Sleep is very sound. Absolutely no issue. Secondly, it's again one advice which was given to me by you, that it was a question, one of the questions which has raised in my mind, that in case I get urinated in the mid of night, what exactly what exactly should be done? So, what is the right time if I get up at 4 o'clock and go urinate? Is that the right time to consume it?
Consume it or not? Okay. See, generally we say first thing in the morning. The first thing in the morning can be different for different people. Some people get up at 4:35, others get up at 7 or 8. But what we have drawn is an arbitrary line. And that is a rough guide. And we have said that any time you wake up after 3 a.m., consider first thing in the morning. If you get up at 2, 2:30, just pass the urine and don't use that. Again, let me emphasize, it's an arbitrary line that I have decided. No book says it. But to me, I just need to define morning and define the night. So I've used that analogy. And that seems to work with most people. And that is quite useful. Does that help you?
Yes, of course. And then another use which I regularly practice is I have stored some part of my Shivambu
for external use.
External use.
Yes.
And whenever there is small scratch or cut or any other kind of stuff externally, so I apply it. And I've seen
But that you knew from your mountaineering days that
yes.
it works anyway. So.
I'd forgotten during in between, but now I never knew that it can be stored.
Yes.
I thought it is to be applied here, fresh or
stored
here
is better for external use,
Yes.
which you would have noticed now.
Yes.
Okay. Rather aged, not stored, but aged is better for external use. Now there was some question you were asking me earlier about should it not be drunk or drunk by other people. Did you have some question about people should drink it or shouldn't drink it?
Yes, one of my friend who is a yoga practitioner, she asked me about this, that she has the question is valid, since it's a byproduct
As
of a body,
we understand.
as we understand, because the body does not need it anymore, that's why
As
it is
we
throwing it
understand.
away, as we understand.
Correct.
So what is your take on this?
Okay. Look, Western medicine has looked at anything coming out of the body as waste. Now I'm going to refer to a few things here. I'm going to talk about urine, I'm going to talk about sweat, and I'm also going to talk about phlegm. I'm not going to touch on phlegm because that may be too gross for some people and it's not relevant. But with sweat, traditional Indian thinking goes, and I think even tribal thinking goes, that if you sweat and you rub the sweat in the body, it is actually good for you. With urine, one of the most important things that people forget is where does urine come from? Urine comes from blood. Filtration of blood leads to urine. When you say filtration, blood is filtered to get rid of whatever is not required at that point in time. What do I mean by that? Suppose I eat a lot of salt today, or suppose I drink a lot of water. My urine will become salty, my urine will become lots of water, because my blood cannot manage that much water in the blood, it cannot become watery. It has to have its certain consistency maintained. So it throws it out into the kidneys, and you will find anybody who drinks 4 or 5 glasses of water is going to the toilet more often, because it is a body's way of saying, get rid of the water. So similarly, anything that is in blood in excess at that point in time gets transferred through the kidneys to urine. But what we must remember is what is in the blood is not the burger or the chips or the ice cream or the samosa or the paneer that I have eaten. All that food is broken up into the elements, so sodium, potassium, magnesium, zinc, amino acids, etc., etc. And only those are present in the blood. So irrespective of whether you are vegetarian, non-vegetarian, eat light food, dark food, if you eat vegetables or fruits, everything is digested to bring out those elements and then sent to the blood. So the blood has got all these ingredients in the right proportion as it needs it. Whatever is excess, suppose today I eat only lettuce and I eat half a kilo of lettuce, I may get certain elements which are in excess that will be transferred to the kidneys, through the kidneys into urine, because the blood cannot tolerate that, it will cause urine. So when you compare the urine test and the blood test and look at all the ingredients, you will find the ingredients are all identical, the same ingredients. The proportions will differ because the proportions will depend on what you have eaten and what is excess in the blood at that point in time. So I gave you the example of eating excess salt. Suppose I was to eat less salt, you will suddenly find that the urine coming out has got less sodium, potassium, salt content, because the blood needs it, so it maintains whatever it is there. The other interesting thing about urine is what we pass out, but Shivambu is what becomes of it when it is in contact with air. And how do I differentiate it? We have urine in our body. In spite of that, we suffer from kidney failure, kidney stones, and kidney infection or urinary tract infection. But what we have noticed is when you pass urine and in contact with air, it gets converted to what we call the active phase of Shivambu. When you ingest Shivambu, kidney stones can disappear, kidney infection can be eased, kidney failure may ease. And I'm just taking these 3 as an example. So there's a definite difference between urine and Shivambu. The second part of the answer is because when I eat my food, it has to be digested fully, which can take 4, 5, 6 hours before it is converted into those elements of sodium, potassium, magnesium, zinc, etc., to assimilate into the blood. But if I was to drink Shivambu, all those ingredients are ready made. And as soon as you drink it, as quick as a flash, it is going to be absorbed by the blood. Again, the blood will keep what it requires, what it doesn't, it will pass into urine over time as part of the filtration process. But it does not have to wait for the whole digestive system to work out and create those elements. So I actually refer to urine or Shivambu as fast food, the true fast food, because it gives you all the ingredients ready-made. Your body doesn't have to work to create them. And that is how I would explain Shivambu difference from urine, and that it is not a throwaway anymore, it is much more powerful and useful. And we have, in clinical practice, we have found it to be of tremendous benefit. I hope that answers the question.
Yes, thank you very much.
So is there anything else you would like to comment about your observations about Shivambu and any questions you might have that we can share with our listeners?
With your experience, you have mentioned that it is the fast food. In fact,
It is the
fastest food.
It is, definitely.
It is, in one of the shows I remember, which is very famous on the television, called as Man and the Wild. Yes,
and
Man
the
and the
Wild,
Wild.
yeah.
So in that, in one of the survival
Sure.
skills in desert, he has mentioned that urine is the best hydrating element. Try to preserve it as much as possible.
Yes, it is. It is. People
So-
underrate it.
Right. So that I remember with your experience. So but now my question is, why only morning time?
Okay.
Shiva?
Okay.
Why not during the day?
Okay. Now, when we treat people, depending on their disease state, we might use morning, afternoon, evening, all day, etc. But the morning is most effective because overnight, the hormones that we have created. See, people forget that our body is dependent on hormones. Hormones are the stimulants. But hormones don't disappear. Hormones are catalysts, so they actually stimulate the body to do something and then they are thrown out. The maximum hormones that come in the urine are first thing in the morning. Now, hormones are there in nano quantities, but because they are the end of the chain, they take a long time to be created in terms of physical time. So instead of blood being created maybe say in about 3 weeks, hormones may take about 3 months to be created. Now if you are going to discharge them, then that is the lag we will have. Since they are found in early morning urine in maximum quantity, if you ingest that, suppose you produce 10 units of a particular hormone and 6 have been used up and 4 are going to go into the urine. If you can ingest it in the morning, your body tomorrow doesn't have to provide 10, it has to provide only 6 more. And thus there is a great saving on the body. That is one of the theories again, but that is what happens with the hormones. So which is why the early morning urine is much more important. And let me go back in history. Our forefathers knew this, which is why they said early morning urine. It is not like it is new. Shivambu Kalpavati is maybe thousands of years old.
I see.
Because it is a conversation between Lord Shiva to Devi Parvati. He shared his thoughts of 107 shlokas with Devi Parvati about what is Shivambu, how it's to be practiced, what can be done, what are the prescriptions, how to massage. And you know the interesting thing, the last shlok says, please keep this a secret. And today I can definitely vouch for it that there may be some meaning in it, because the meaning of keeping it a secret is actually telling me to protect myself. Because all of us know, if I was to go out on the street and tell people I drink my urine every day, people are going to look with square eyes, squinty eyes, and maybe not want to talk to me. So maybe that is why that last shlok was specifically put in, don't tell anybody else, keep it a secret. On that note, I think we can complete our discussion. Thank you very much for being here. Once again, I would request all the audience who are listeners and watching this interview to take great inspiration from this gentleman who has been kind enough to share his personal journey of Shivambu and how it has helped him. And we hope all of you can benefit and improve your health and thus stay healthy, wealthy and wise. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thanks a lot.